Hi, and welcome to our first discussion. This week's discussion is really centered around a technology tool called SMAR. It's really meant to help gauge technology integration, and I wanted to give you a little bit of familiarity with it and some of the ways that teachers have seen some of the use, and personally how I feel it's best used in different classrooms. SAMR is originally generated by a guy named Ruben Pinturba, and he was an education researcher looking at ways that effective technology integration has taken place. Lots of other people have really latched on the idea recently, Kathy Schrock being one of them, and if you aren't familiar with Kathy Schrock's blog, it's really wonderful. Kathy Schrock's Guide to Everything. There's a lot of great tools in there, so I'll post this link in our resources. But here's an overview where we start with the S for the SAMR is a substitution, the A is the augmentation, M is modification, and the R is the redefinition. Looking at some examples, if you're just taking note taking, you can go from basic substitution, where maybe you're using a note taking tool like Notability or something else on your iPad or other device, all the way up to redefinition, where there's a way for teachers to actually access student notes and interact in a collaborative and maybe real-time manner. That could not be done before without the technology, and that's really the idea of redefinition, is you're looking at something that could not have taken place without the technology, whereas on a substitution level, it's really just replacing an old technique or an old teaching structure. So in a nutshell, that's what SAMRs are all about, and then the in-between stages are the augmentation and the modification. Now here's where I really kind of think about SAMR differently sometimes. A lot of people get into the idea that this is a progression. You know, we're teachers, we're used to rubrics, we like that kind of structure, but I would really argue that this is much more of a continuum, where the movement between these different methods and these different interpretations of the technology integration are as equally important as each individual step. So by getting and doing redefinition, it does not mean that you've accomplished a goal in terms of technology integration, and you're kind of now done innovating or done integrating things. Really, it's much more of a flow between all of these. I think a really good example of this is done by Jacqueline Stevens, and she kind of reinterpreted SAMR as a swimming pool. And I have this linked already in the resources, but if you are doing some research, this is one to really check out about SAMR. I like this interpretation because it gives the teacher a lot of flexibility and a lot of freedom to think of this as a continuum. Knowing that if you stayed in this redefinition end, the deep end of the pool, if you stayed in there for an extended period of time, you and your students are going to basically wear out. You're going to burn yourselves out, and the learning is not going to be as impacted. But really thinking about swimming laps between these different ideas of substitution to augmentation, modification, redefinition, and maybe back again. Maybe that back and forth happens within a lesson. Maybe that back and forth happens within a unit. But I see this as a powerful way of ensuring that we're really reaching some deeper levels of integration, and that's where I think the power of SAMR is not in a rubric, not in a judgment, but really as a way of reflecting about how technology is being integrated in your class. So I appreciate this. There's lots of other models out there, but I think this is a really nice one. So use this in your research. I'd be interested to hear your opinions about this as well. One last model I wanted to throw out as a guide, because you'll hear more about this, is TPACK. TPACK is another integration model. Sometimes this is a little bit more intuitive for a middle school, maybe a secondary, maybe a high school kind of content area, and where it really looks at the whole picture of the integration of technology with what other things teachers do to make learning successful. What I like about this one is each of these big areas, whether it be knowledge of how to teach, or your content knowledge, or the technology that you're going to integrate. What I like about this visual is it has each of those weighted equally. And when they are all working in concert with each other, there's this sweet spot where then there's real breakthroughs and real ideas are generated that further student learning. But you can't get there without all three of them working together. So if your content knowledge isn't quite as great, but you've got great technology tools and your teaching is really strong, you're still only going to be part of the way there in terms of what student learning outcomes that you're shooting for. Same thing is true if your content and your pedagogy are really strong. And this is more of that traditional teaching model where we might be really strong in our content and really strong in our approaches. But what's new, I think, in the last few years anyway, has become really apparent is that idea of technology becoming part of routine instruction. It's not just for projects anymore, but really becoming part of routine instruction, and that's where that technology piece really fits in. Well, I wanted to give you guys a quick overview of TPACK and a quick overview of SMAR, giving you guys a couple different models to look at. Please take the time this week to dive into more of the links and more of the details that are found in the objectives and readings part of the course. There's some really good resources there to check out. What I'm looking for this week is some discussion board conversation around SMAR and some of the things and insights that you gain from your research. Looking forward to reading and learning with you. Have a great day.